Hi guys, this is Anna from the Xzistor lab, and in this video we are back with Troopy, our little Lego robot, and today we will see how entertainment works in the brain. So it's literally a case of having fun and games with Troopy today. And we will first look at how we're going to model playing or pleasure or fun in the brain, and then we use the Xzistor concept brain model like always for this. We'll also have a little look at Simi, that's Troopy's virtual ancestor, how we modeled playing and fun. He was playing with his ball and he's confined already, and we'll show you some clips of Simi. And then we'll move on to Troopy, and we'll have, like I said, some fun and games with Troopy. We'll see him play with his ball. He's got his little nano drone that he's going to fly, and he's even going to play some computer games and show us how he experiences fun and games. And then finally, we will just look a little bit at how entertainment, how pleasure works in the brain. So what is fun? I think in terms of the brain model, we simply define it as a state where the brain is not preoccupied with addressing urgent matters, and then the brain begins to look for fun things to do. So when the brain is not hungry, is not thirsty, it's not in pain, it's not too hot or not feeling too cold, or it's not in an anger state, also not fatigued or too sleepy, or highly frustrated, or fearful, then the brain becomes playful and frivolous, if you like, and basically it starts to look for sources of excitement and pleasure. We have to discern between two basic forms of pleasure and entertainment, and then these two, we must not mistake these two for what they are. In the first instance, we might find pleasure just from reducing our stress levels. And we might be stressed at work or be in another kind of stress situation, and suddenly we feel that if we have a massage, or we go on a holiday, or we just go and sit and watch a movie or a documentary just for escapism, we find it very pleasurable. And that's got to do with resetting a stress state in the body that's already inherent in the mind. But if this is not the case, if we really just sort of have got nothing better to do, we've got no stress states, no fear, not too hot, not too cold, no bigger things to worry about, the brain starts to look for excitement and exhilaration. And this could be from computer games or action movies or roller coasters. And it's different from the pleasure that we enjoyed in the first case, because in this case there's no predetermined stress level. We literally have to generate a bit of stress, and what we do is we just generate that small amount of stress, so that when we get a release from it, we get those important chemicals that are produced in the brain to proceed to provide us with pleasure. It's well known that chemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins and so on are produced in the brain during the pleasure states. I think what's important is chemicals alone cannot cause a subjective state, or literally the feelings that we subjectively enjoy. We have to understand the functional role that these chemicals play in the algorithms. So on the right hand side there we see a fairly complex assembly of chemicals being passed over the synaptic gap. The Xzistor concept brain model makes things extremely easy, in the sense that we don't care at all what those chemicals do. We have a functional algorithm which explains how the brain achieves everything it wants to achieve. And literally it's a case of, how the brain does that, what chemicals use is not important to us. It's a bit like you say, well, I've designed a car, and I need a power function, and whether it's a battery motor, or it's an internal combustion engine, or a gas turbine, we don't really care about the details. We just say, provide this function. We need a power source. So it's important to just, instead of thinking that understanding the chemicals is going to give us a solution. We have to ask, what is it that they actually do? In terms of the Xzistor concept brain model, the way it works is we actually define a single term which explains all of the different types of pleasure and fun and enjoyment that the brain can experience. So it'll cover different levels of pleasure also. We can have the very high excitement sources, like let's say you go for a roller coaster ride or you do parachute jumping or something, very high excitement level that can be generated that way. There could be the medium intensity sources, like you just, have a bit of fun with a skateboard, or you just watch an action movie, or even something like a pub quiz. It's fun, it's pleasure. People do it for exactly that reason. It can become very subtle. So some of these pleasure sources can become very subtle, and even things like, one wouldn't say that, but even things like daydreaming, or even reading up about new topics just out of curiosity, could actually generate those same chemicals to a lower degree. And that's why we sometimes like to look at the news, we read blogs, we like to read about scientific discoveries and so on, and there's a bit of anxiety is being created by we don't know something, we don't know what's in the news, we don't know what this travel blog is going to be about, and then there's this slight satisfaction of the release from that sort of slight tension, and there's that subtle generation of those important chemicals in the brain. The brain model allows us to write a mathematical algorithm we can program into the brains of robots. But let's take a little look at why children actually play. Playing and looking for excitement and fun is nature's way to encourage children to explore the environment and learn about it. In the process, a child also learns 3D coordination and balancing skills. Often reflexes are used to encourage playing behaviors that will be of use when the child is an adult. So we see girls like to play with dolls, and the boys like to run around and go berserk and build little tents and chase each other around and so on, and it's all good exercise and all help them to learn their 3D coordination skills and other sort of social skills. The human brain does not, like the animals, come with an extensive set of instinctive behaviors. So there's a lot of learning that needs to take place during childhood. It starts with a curiosity to explore, to touch and feel and taste objects. This teaches the child a very important fact, and that is that he or she actually owns arms and legs, and that there are different physical objects arranged in 3D space that she can interact with. So we literally have to learn that the boundaries of our own bodies, and we will feel and touch and feel pain, and in this way learn that this object that we see in front of us is actually our left hand or our right hand, and in a way we are inextricably linked to this object, and we can actually use this object to manipulate our environment. So very importantly, this is all things that we learn during those early days of innocent playing. And there's a lot of benefits of this playing instinct. Slowly the child learns the bounds of her own body, and that in itself the child is in itself an object amongst other objects within the 3D environment. It learns to ascribe the word me, or just go by its own name, the child's name, to this object that is her body, and become confident that the ever helpful mother and father are also physical objects that can be manipulated to get things from. Soon the child learns that the objects called mommy and daddy can be manipulated to get food, drinks, toys, attention, soothing words, and reassuring hugs. There is, however, a slightly more ominous side to playing. I think if we think about it carefully, the child is required to progress through childhood and survive in order to procreate. So this in effect means the nature can turn childhood playing into a genetic quality check. Those children without the mental and physical abilities to survive childhood will not be able to contribute to the gene pool. So we find that children who are inherently careful cautious, and they, let's say they have an inherent fear of heights, fire, wild animals, water, the dark, unknown objects, etc. So literally very, very wary and careful, and avoid being impulsive whilst playing, will have a better chance of surviving into adulthood and procreating. And interestingly, some blame this childhood selection process for the large percentage of highly anxious, overly contemplative, or depressed, if you like, and literally fear-ridden individuals in society today. It's almost an epidemic, we could blame this on evolution and the fact that the more spontaneous and fearless individuals died of fatal misjudgments and misadventure before procreating. So playing is not just about having fun. The innocence of childhood has an ominous additional evolutionary function of removing the genes of individuals without an inbuilt ability to survive. So for example, whilst playing, toddlers might bite on objects, exposing them to bacteria, viruses, parasites, pathogens, toxins, etc., which will further test the genetic suitability of their immune system. So I can distinctly remember when I was a toddler that I was sort of wrapped over the knuckles a little bit for just eating some soil. And I can't exactly remember the reason why I thought that was necessary to have a bite of the dirt that was in the driveway there. But once again, you have these genetic instincts which drive the child to expose himself to danger, but in the process, the immune system gets tested in quite a sort of a cold and calculated way. Survival favors brains that are calculating, contemplative, skeptical, judgmental, risk-averse, and able to plan ahead to manage threats and opportunities in the future. So here we can see again that while we play, those that are calculative, those children that are calculative, contemplative, skeptical, judgmental, risk-averse, and worried about the future, where things will come from, what threats there are in the future, these are the ones that survive. And so it's no wonder that we sit with an increasing problem with anxiety and stress and depression born within the genes, the genetic pool that we sit with. So by surviving childhood, individuals earn the right to procreate, and their genes stay part of the mix. So let's take a little look at how playing works, and specifically, I think, how we've modeled it. So just in terms of how we say in the Xzistor concept brain model domain, how it works, we would refer to playing or having fun as a self-induced tension or anxiety with subsequent release. And what happens then is this fires the chemicals from the pleasure center in the brain, leading to pleasurable states. And in the graph there we see a simple, the purple graph just shows more or less it's just indicative, this graph, but it shows somebody playing a computer game and the levels of anxiety that shoots up every now and then, every time maybe when they have to fire at a target or they get exposed to some fearful state. And we see it goes up and down, up and down, up and down as the player goes through the computer game. A little bit less exciting is the playing with a ball. So just playing with a simple ball, like we see our little simulation and our little robot is going to do for us. We see it's much less exciting. And the simple assumption that we made with the Xzistor concept brain model and the way we model and demonstrate it is basically to just average out the effect of these anxiety generating sort of triggers. And we would say, okay, clearly we can see that the computer game, that the average level of excitement is higher than it is than playing with a ball. So we don't go to the trouble in our simulation with Simi and Troopy to actually model the detailed states of excitement. Both Simi and Troopy have not learned long enough to understand the context of computer games. So we literally just say, okay, we make the assumption that the computer game is slightly more exciting than playing with a ball. And the reason we do that is very important. So one of the key tests we do when we test this brain model is to see if we expose the robot to a sense of pleasure, let's say playing with his ball, and he learns to enjoy that and play with the ball when he's not otherwise occupied with more urgent things. We then expose him to the computer game, which is much higher level of enjoyment. And what we see is that slowly the little robot will migrate to the computer game and do away with playing with the ball. And that's a very important test where we test a lot of the algorithms involved in this brain model to see how the robot actually starts to prefer moving over to the computer to play the computer game and start to more and more neglect the ball. So playing with the ball. So we did that very deliberately. In both the simulation and also with the with Troopy, and we now cut over and I'll just show you some clips of first of all the simulation, the 3D simulation, playing with his ball and moving over to his little television, and then we will move to Troopy and just see how he plays in his domain, some of the games he play, and we'll have a bit of fun with the different things that he play with. And then come back to just see how he plays on the computer game. If we look at Simi playing with his purple ball in his 3D virtual environment, we see he's quite a happy camper. If we look at the emotional panel above his head, we see the yellow bars and the green bars. So the green bars are indicating that he's quite a happy camper now. He's got a big smile on his face. Above we also see the signboard which is play, so that helps us to quickly identify the mode that he's in. If we look at the fuel pack on his back, that is his purple power juice, and we see that the level is very high, so that's why he's in play mode. If it becomes lower, he would change to food mode, and then he will start looking for to replenish his food levels. So at the moment his tummy is full and he's playing, he's having fun, and he's literally in a very positive state. And towards the end there's slight hesitation and he stops and suddenly the smile goes away. We also see that the green bars on the emotional panel has disappeared, so something has perturbed him now. And we see that he's looking straight at the ghost. Not so clear from this angle, but and that has now upset him. So interesting there that amidst the playing he's now noticed the ghost, and suddenly all the fun and frivolity is gone and his smile has disappeared. This is Simi if we set the speed to normal, and we can see him playing with his ball. And there's that very important moment where he has noticed something in the environment which told him the television is there and it's going to be more exciting to watch television. And we've even taught him to push the green button on his panel to switch the TV on. Here we see Troopy playing with his aeroplane. We have programmed Troopy so to be saying the word play repeatedly while he's playing. That's just to help us to understand that he's in play mode. And yes, he's playing with his green ball. I think he could be a candidate for the RoboCup tournament. Yeah, we will see him play with his nanodrone, fly his nanodrone. Not really, I'm flying it. And also exploring a bit of the video editing software that I'm working with at the moment. Here we have Troopy in his learning confine, playing his computer game, having a lot of fun, and I'm just going to zoom into the game a little bit. So let me put the microphone over there. Sorry Troopy, didn't mean to interrupt your game. But we can see now what makes me a little bit worried is the fact that he's got his laser in his one hand. He's controlling the game there from his on his little laptop computer, but I am worried about the laser that he has got here in his right hand. He has been known to get a bit overexcited when he plays these games. So I hope this is not going to lead to a bad decision at some stage. Let's keep an eye on Troopy and see how it's going. Stay calm, Troopy. Stay calm. No need to get overexcited. You're doing very well. Oh no! Oh my! No! You're going to destroy it. What are you doing? You're going to destroy your television. Look at it. Oh no! Look at what you've done now. Oh no, man. Oh no! The TV is destroyed. Oh goodness me! You've broken your television. Oh, Troopy. And what a skeletal thing in the back there. Here we have the Xzistor concept brain model starting up, and we see the dashboard. There we see the videos activated and the facial expression. Troopy is playing. Obviously he gets born with a full tummy, so he's immediately in play mode. He's immediately inquisitive and exploring. And we can see him moving around. He's confined. He's effectively now playing, running with his aeroplane or kicking his ball. On the far right, we see the blue line there. Don't worry about that too much. That's actually his hunger level. But the purple line is our dopamine line indicator, and that helps us to understand how the dopamine level is developing. If we come over here, we see there's a physical enjoyment right there above the line. This is the net sort of positive enjoyment level. Down here we see a smile on the face. If we come to the right to the bottom here, we see the blue line is above the yellow line, which means experiencing pleasure. And we're now going to stop him, force him to stop, and then we just see what the effect of that is. So I'm going to stop him in his tracks. I'm going to stop him now. Let me just click on the video, and now I'm going to stop him. There he stops. Now just look what happened here at the bottom here. The blue line is now dropped down to the yellow line, which means he's experiencing no pleasure. And if we come to the left, to the top here, we also see suddenly the enjoyment is gone. He's still got a bit of a grin on his face because what he's seen in his environment playing has left a positive memory. But if we start it up again, he's going to start playing again. Immediately we see up here on the left, we see the enjoyment level returning. Down here in the right hand bottom corner, the blue line, the general happiness curve, is above the yellow line again. And just take a look at this general happiness curve here down at the bottom to the right. I'm going to now stop. I'm going to stop him again from playing, and then we see what happens there. Right, immediately see the blue line dropping down. And you see the little face is suddenly not so happy. It might even be because he's saw the black area there, for which he's got a bit of a phobia, as we've seen in one of the other videos. So quite simple. Playing shows the pleasure states that the little Troopy is enjoying, and of course when we stop him from playing, we see this little face. It's now time for some final thoughts and conclusions on entertainment in the brain. I think we saw basically we have two types of pleasure. The one is a release from a inherent stress state, where we already have a preset stress level, things like massage, going on a holiday, just a bit of escapism by watching a movie or a documentary will bring pleasure. Otherwise, if we have got no inherent stress states, we can generate excitement, exhilaration, and then find release from that. And this is basically what playing is all about, and why we enjoy things like computer games and watching an action movie and going on a roller coaster ride and so on. And we said sometimes tension is generated by introducing a competitive element, like in a quiz or a board game. And then it's the competitive element which just artificially sets up the sort of excitement or exhilaration level, from which we then get the release. And it is the release that we said that fire that dopamine pump, which brings the pleasure state. Interestingly, the memory of pleasure. So Xzistor concept robots will form positive memories when they move around areas in their rooms where they experience pleasure. So we're going to look at a little clip from Simi, and where we can actually see, we can see on his overhead panel how the emotions flit through his mind as he moves around his confine. And I will just show where this was driven by the fact that he had enjoyed pleasure. So for the Xzistor concept robots, we can see their emotions in real time on the overhead panels or the dashboards as they move around their confines. And that will clearly show us where they had enjoyed pleasant experiences, for instance, by playing and having fun and entertainment. And we'll also see the negative emotions where things were a bit more unpleasant. In those instances where an area in the confine, they have enjoyed both pleasant and unpleasant memories, the Xzistor concept brain model will perform a mental calculation to give the net emotional state, which could end up either being positive or negative. But let's take a quick look at Simi in his confine. I just want to show you on that overhead panel how you can actually see the emotional state flit through his brain as he moves around his confine. This is just a reminder of the pain and fear video that we did, and where we saw Simi basically being rammed into the cactus. And look at the overhead panel, look at those emotions there, the brown bars showing the fear. And we'll just look again now in the next video. I'm going to go slow motion now. Just look at that emotional panel again there, and look at that green bar there. So that's a positive emotion, and it's from what Simi is looking at. Simi recognizes this environment, and this is where he played and had fun. But now as he moves, it goes to brown again, and that's obviously where he collided with the confined wall. He's looking at that area. Now as he moves closer to the food source, now it goes to green again. So there's a pleasant memory from the food source. But then as Simi keeps on changing his view on the confine, coming to the corner now, you see the brown bars on the memory panel. That's all negative, unpleasant, obviously all to do with the fact that he had to learn not to collide with the side of the confine. And as he sees the cactus, you can immediately see the unpleasant memories shoot up, and it quickly becomes more up to the point where he has to retreat. So it's clear that areas of entertainment will be remembered as positive green, and areas of pain and fear will be remembered as brown. Over the ages, people have tried to define what humor is and what comedy is and so on, and gone to great lengths to just dissect it and understand it. But really, it's very simple in terms of the Xzistor concept brain model. Let's just take a look at a few children looking at enjoying a circus clown. And typically what you see is that the clown would now perform, create deliberate situations to create apprehension and excitement. And these activities will create that tension, which can be followed by a de-stressing or normally an amusing release. It's really, this mechanism is no different from the graphs we saw for playing a computer game or playing with a ball. And grown-ups will be able to appreciate more subtle and nuanced humor, but the mechanism stays the same. So there's that fundamental mental anticipation or tension state that is set up, followed by a sudden release. And in the case of more grown-up humor, it could be a sort of a punchline or a twist, or just a sudden unexpected perspective or clever insight, which brings that release. A great part of the attraction towards sport is the up and down tension about winning and losing. This fires that dopamine pump that we spoke about. If we take it a level even further, we go even more subtle. Something we're well familiar with is the human mind's curiosity level. As the brain develops and learn we start to derive pleasure from gaining insight into things we do not understand. The lack of knowledge is what creates the tension. And as we find the answers, the tension is relieved and the dopamine cycle fires. And this, of course, is extremely subtle. But we do learn that there can be pleasure in being curious. So stress is relieved when we find answers through, let's say, we watch a news bulletin, or we read up something about new technology, or follow some courses. For some, it can be as simple as reading a glitzy magazine, and for others, it might be some, really heavy-going scientific journals. But in the end, it is the unknown which becomes known. This is effectively a release, and it fires that dopamine pump. If we find insights and new solutions in the answers, we call it interesting. So that's exactly what happens. Is as we find something providing us with answers to unknown questions or queries we had in our minds, we say, well, this is interesting, and we use that word. This curiosity or hunger for understanding has driven much of the scientific inventions over the years. It also led, of course, to the discovery of the Xzistor concept brain model. And of course, the Xzistor concept brain model being a mathematical model which allows us to program robots to have all the subjective states that humans experience. We can also mathematically define boredom, and can simply be defined as the lack of entertainment, the lack of pleasure. So if we don't have enough suspense, not enough pleasure, not enough entertainment, surprise, escapism, new knowledge, new things happening, new understanding, we will get bored, and we will start to feel the need to look for other sources of entertainment. And this could be where we start to look for food or alcohol or sexual activity or anything that sort of could create pleasure. So boredom is simply the lack of entertainment. Well, I hope you haven't found this video too boring. From the Xzistor Lab, this is Anno signing off. See you in the next video.